What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video. In this one, we're looking at FPL captaincy for game week 30. There's quite a few options to choose from. Like for me, there's one standout that's been talked about quite a lot, but we're forgetting about Fernandes. There's Leeds players to look at, Man City. There's even other fixtures that aren't in the main list, which could be worth having a look at. So lots of options, and I like weeks like this because people can do something a little bit different if they want to, and hopefully, potentially, get ahead. If you enjoy this captaincy video, please do give it a like, hit subscribe if you're around here, and let's jump into it. Okay, so just a few caveats first. I am recording this before all the press conferences are over. This video will probably be released before they're all done as well, so keep that in mind before you make any choices. Also, I usually come into the captaincy video with an idea of who I want to captain because I try and pick my captains in advance, but I still come into this with an open mind, and this fixture has maybe turned my head a little bit. Now, I already knew that Sheffield United was a good fixture, right? And arguably, if you look at the Leeds United defensive data for the whole season, etc., it's probably not a bad fixture for Sheffield United either. The difference is Leeds have good attackers, Sheffield United don't. But this matchup has definitely kind of opened my eyes to the potential for going a little bit different this week. I'm not saying that Rafinha and Bamford are the standouts, but it looks very good, right? Over the course of the season, 1.63 expected goals conceded per game on average for Sheffield United is really bad, right? But it gets even worse. Like it's 2.34, 2.72 over the last 6 and 4 matches. And I had a look at who they've played. So Sheffield United last 4, Leicester, Southampton, Villa and Liverpool. Okay, so to be fair, there's quite a few attacking teams in there. Leicester are a good attacking team. They put 5 past them, for Christ's sake. Villa and Liverpool 2. And then if you extend it out to 6, it's Fulham and West Ham. Now, Fulham, they're okay. They're not a great attacking team, I would say. West Ham are fairly decent as well. So they've played quite a few good attacking teams, but that shouldn't make us say, well, that's why they've conceded so many expected goals. That's the whole point, right? They're playing good attacking teams and they can't cope. Here's another one. Leeds United, one of the best attacking teams so far this season. So I think if you wanted to go outside of kind of the big names like the De Bruynes, the Kanes, the Fernandes, this is probably the fixture that I would look at. And I think probably losing Chris Wilder maybe hasn't helped all that much either. I know obviously he hasn't done maybe the job that was expected. I've heard rumours that he's maybe fallen out with the board and stuff. I don't know. It doesn't really matter for the purposes of this video. This is a good fixture. Looking at the players, you got Bamford, 7 shots in the box, 3 chances created over the last 4 matches. And Rafinha's 8 shots in the box and 11 chances created. Now, the way I've been picking my captain for most of this season is looking at who has the best underlying numbers over the season, because it gives you a longer sample size to look at. Like last 4 matches, there can be many reasons why one player performs above another, right? Rather than looking at the larger samples. But Rafinha is not that far behind. The main difference between the two is a lot of Bamford's kind of stats and like expected goal involvement, which you see on the screen, comes from shots. Goals are worth more points. For a striker, they're definitely worth more bonus points as well. Rafinha overall is usually just behind over the season, but his are kind of more split. So some of his expected goal involvement comes from the shots, some comes from the chances created. And therefore, if they both got 1 return, it's probably worth more to Bamford than it is to Rafinha, because Bamford probably gets a goal. He probably gets some bonus points. Rafinha might just get an assist. And he could get bonus points for that too. But it's maybe a little bit trickier. So I'm really torn between these two, because I think if you watch the games recently, Rafinha probably comes out on top. In terms of performances, eye tests and stuff like that. The stats still aren't bad for Bamford, and over the season he's incredible. And with penalties, I probably would just side with him still. But if you wanted to go for a midfielder that's outside of the big hitters, then I think Rafinha is the one this week. I put Dallas in there just to kind of show you that even an attacking defender is not that attacking, obviously, compared to the attackers. Surprise, surprise. But I just think with Leeds, I think this is a good fixture for Leeds to get a clean sheet, but also their defensive stats just aren't that good, so you wouldn't ever be surprised if they do concede. So I'd be a little bit worried about captaining someone like Dallas. But looking at Bamford and Rafinha, I think Bamford is still probably the best option just about. But if you're basing it more on recent performances, eye tests and stuff like that, I can see why people would want to go Rafinha. This is a brilliant fixture. Okay, so Leicester versus Man City has probably been a little bit overlooked, right? Leicester are a fairly good defence. As you can see, they don't give away too many shots in the box, but the quality of chances they give away is is not great, right? They're not a top 5 defence. Last season, I think they were in the top 7. They're around about that there, if not just a bit slightly lower this year. So I'm not sat here telling you that Leicester are bad. They're definitely not. Look at their league position. Brendan Rodgers is a great manager. The defence is good, but it's probably not kind of in, it's not elite level. Chelsea, Man City, even Brighton's defensive numbers are ridiculous compared to Leicester. You got Man United, Wolves. They're all just that little bit better. And Leicester have had to deal with quite a few injuries, to be fair, this season. I know a lot's been made about Liverpool's injuries. Leicester have also had a lot of defender injuries, right? So they might get better. But you look at the numbers, 1.19, it's nothing special. That's over the season. It's got slightly worse over the last 6 and 4. So they've played, to be fair, over the last 4, they've played Sheffield United, Brighton, Burnley and Arsenal. So not exactly massive attacking teams. And then outside of that, if you go to last 6, it's Villa and Liverpool. So a little bit more attacking, which is maybe where those numbers come in. So there's definitely potential for goals here. And I fully appreciate that in the reverse fixture, Leicester absolutely smashed it and won 5-2. I don't see that happening this time, right? Man City have absolutely just been the best team by far over the last few weeks, over the whole season, right? Just at the start of the season, things were a little bit weird. I don't know why, but they're not conceding 5 goals again, are they? So I think this is actually quite a good fixture for Man City. Obviously, with any player we talk about, there's internationals to think about. So Gundogan, for example, played a lot of minutes. De Bruyne missed the last game, etc. So I do think they'll all start either way, regardless of the minutes. I think these are players that play kind of every 3 or 4 days, a lot of time anyway. Yes, they'll get the odd rest, but it's not usually consistently like every other game or something like that. So I do think they'll start. How team performances will be after the internationals, we don't really know. We can speculate, but it's probably not worth taking into account for our thinking. So given that Leicester's numbers are okay, they're not elite, and Man City's attacking numbers are elite, and if you look at De Bruyne, 8 shots in the box and 12 chances created over the last 4 matches. Now Gundogan has played slightly fewer minutes in those matches, but his stats are right down. So only 3 shots in the box, 6 chances created. When I watch the games, it still feels to me like Gundogan is getting in the box, but perhaps now with De Bruyne back, he's also taking some of the load there. So I think De Bruyne is a good captain this week. I mean, where would I rank him? I think he's probably slightly below Kane and maybe on par with Rafinha, if not slightly higher, just because his individual attacking numbers for the season are just ridiculous. And obviously I appreciate now people have seen him score from open play. They're a bit more happy to captain him. So I think if I wasn't going to go for Kane, like in my team I don't have Fernandes. De Bruyne is currently my vice captain. That's how good I think he is this week, and he is being a bit overlooked. If you want to go for a bit of a punt, then I think Mahrez. Will he start? I mean, he started the last few. He hasn't played a huge amount of minutes over the international break. I don't even know if he's played at all, actually. I really should have checked that before I started recording. But his numbers are good. Same amount of shots in the box as De Bruyne. Only 7 chances created, so it's a little bit lower. But you'd expect that, right? De Bruyne is the creator in that team. So as a punt, I think even Mahrez is a nice option. Like, we're in a week where we're going to talk about Kane in a minute. He probably is the standout for a lot of people. And he is above everyone else, I would say. But there's a lot of other good captain options that are all kind of together in terms of how good they are. Like, I don't think there's like a standout second place or anything like that. So if you wanted to target someone else, I think De Bruyne is great. Right, and I would consider him if I didn't own Kane. And as a punt, I would go Mahrez. Gundogan, I don't think he's a bad option. I just think the other 2 are better. Okay, let's talk about the big man himself, Harry Kane. Should mention Son as well. Again, I am recording this before I've seen Jose Mourinho's press conference. Unfortunately, I can't delay the video any longer, otherwise it just won't go out in time today. But he's back training, so I'm going to assume he's fit. I mean, my initial instinct as a Son owner is to just not captain him, just in case he needs a reduced amount of minutes or something like that. Obviously, for your own choice, make sure you listen to what Jose Mourinho says. Check out like Fantasy Football Scout or something like that, which will have the quotes for what he says about Son. I'm sure he's going to be questioned about him. If he's not, what are the journalists doing? We need to get FPL journalists in press conferences. But anyway, so these are the last 4 matches stats. Obviously, Kane has played a couple of different games to, or at least one game with the Villa game that Son hasn't, right? So slightly different games. But you can see from the stats, it does look like Son has turned into a little bit of a creator. Now, Bale was playing in a lot of those games, so perhaps whether or not Bale plays may see Son start taking a few more shots. I don't know. It's hard to kind of speculate without, actually seeing what happens when we watch the games. But over the last 4, Son has created 10 chances, Kane only 4, but Kane's taking way more shots in the box. And that has been a trend for a little while. So that's another thing that would put me off captaining Son, right, you preferably want to captain someone that's going to be scoring goals, or at least can get you 1 or 2 assists, plus is really good for bonus. And I'm just not sure if Son was just to get an assist, whether he'd be that good for bonus, like a De Bruyne would be, or a Fernandes, etc. So Kane is definitely the standout. And again, I came into this thinking, right, I want to captain Kane, but maybe there's reason not to, and I don't know if there is, right? So Sheffield United numbers are bad. Newcastle's numbers aren't quite as bad, right? Defensively, 1.45 over the season. I think Sheffield United were around 1.6, and obviously Sheffield United last 6 or last 4 really bad. Newcastle's around the same, if not slightly better over the last 4. They've played Brighton, Villa, West Brom, Wolves. So I would say West Brom and Wolves definitely not high attacking teams. Villa without Grealish, and Brighton, I mean, their numbers are usually pretty good. They just can't put the ball in the back of the net. But they did it 3 times against Newcastle. So they are still there for the taking. And then if you go to last 6, it includes Man United and Chelsea. So I think this is a great fixture. I think Son being back is actually really good for Kane. You can see from those numbers he is creating a lot of chances. And against Villa, Kane, I don't want to say he played deep. I think it's too easy to say he just plays as a defensive midfielder, right? It's just such a lazy thing to say. But he did come back quite a bit to receive the ball. He was the one that played the pass in for Lucas Moura to then play it across to Vinicius. So it was Vinicius in the box, not Harry Kane. But as we know, he's on penalties, just like Fernandes, probably De Bruyne, etc. So I do think he is probably the standout this week. Right, I don't think it's the worst week if you want to try and go for Rafinha or a Bamford or someone like that. But if you've got Harry Kane, you're not worried about what everyone else is doing. I think he just looks great. 3.2 expected goal involvement over the last 4. I even took out the penalty from those numbers. So they're actually a bit higher if you just look at XG with penalties as well. Newcastle's a great fixture. If Son is back, that can only help. I think there's goals in this one. It doesn't have to be 4 or 5-0 because if they score, Kane is going to be involved. And then we got Man United versus Brighton. So I feel like I've almost forgotten about Fernandes. I took him out my team. Obviously, he blanked in 29, so we didn't have to worry about him. He actually blanked against West Ham and obviously got the penalty against Man City. So no, I don't think he's had any open play. Yeah, obviously no open play returns in the last 3 because he didn't play one of the matches, to be fair. And if we look over the last 4, 2 shots in the box, that is it. Right, but you would expect his numbers to be slightly down after playing Man City. Still created 11 chances. 1.24 expected goal involvement is okay. Plenty of players on this list have got higher over the last 4. I've put Rashford and Cavani on there just for consistency of having 3 players, to be honest. I don't think anyone should be looking at them for captaincy this week. Obviously, if you wanted to go different, you could for Man United, but Fernandes is the one. And here's the thing, right? And I feel like a broken record talking about Brighton's defensive numbers. Look how good they are. Like I don't think there's any real question about Potter's job. If they sack Potter, that would be a massive mistake. And actually, I'd love him to be England manager, to be honest. I don't know if club managers don't always translate well necessarily to international management straight away, but he's a good manager. And these numbers he's getting out of Brighton are just crazy. The amount of clean sheets they've not had, it's just stupid. And look, expected data is not perfect. It doesn't mean just because the numbers are good straight away that will translate into points. It could be the back end of this season. It could be next season where they start to look good. But ultimately, at some point, these are going to start translating into more points. Now, Man United are one of the better attacking teams in the league, so it's going to be a struggle for Brighton anyway. But I do think they're going to keep the score down. I don't see I think the reverse fixture was like 3-2, wasn't it? It had that penalty. By the way, definite penalty for Fernandes. I didn't see it in real time because I was out. This is way back in the start of the season. But the whistle was blown before... Sorry, the event happened before the whistle was blown. Therefore, VAR had to check it. It was fine. Let me know in the comments below what you think about that. What better way to do this capsule video than to stir up old stuff? Definite penalty. That being said, I just don't see this as a good fixture for Man United. I don't think we'll necessarily struggle. I think we can get the win here, but I think it's only going to be like 1 or 2 goals. Fernandes could be involved, but his numbers, I don't think they're looking that good to me. An assist, yeah, fair enough, but shots in the box too. If he gets a penalty, great, but I don't think it's going to be the easiest game for him, and I think there's better options. I think De Bruyne could be better this week. I think Kane's better. I'd rather captain Rafinha, Bamford. Maybe I'm going to get this wrong on Fernandes. I've got it wrong on him most of the season. I'm sure lots of you are thinking about captaining him, but I don't know. Sometimes I just think if there's time to go against him, it's a fixture like this against Brighton. I mean, I have to stick with what I think, right? I got rid of him because I knew this fixture was here and I wouldn't want to captain him. And therefore, that is still my opinion. Like, I'm trying to be objective about this with the numbers and stuff, but also this whole channel is based around my opinion. I sold him because I knew I wouldn't want to captain him in this fixture. And nothing's really changed to do that. I think against West Ham, I would say he was probably a little bit unlucky not to get a return. But again, West Ham are a good defence. Man City got the penalty. Maybe he'll get a penalty here. But from open play, just hasn't looked like scoring recently. And like I said, Rashford and Cavani, whatever. So if you're a Fernandes owner, let me know below if you're going to captain him and what you think of this fixture. I know people, a lot of people don't care about expected data. Absolutely fine. But Brighton's numbers are good. It just doesn't always translate into real world performances. Maybe it will start to. Will it be against United? Let me know what you think below. Okay, so let's take a look at some other matches. So I've not even included Chelsea versus West Brom in the main kind of section. The reason for that is I think a lot of people are looking at Chelsea for punts this week ahead of a Game Week 31 wildcard. Like Havertz, for example, Alonso. These are kind of players that I would just be happy having in my team this week as a punt. The captain is just another step on that punt, right? So if you're already worried about whether Havertz will definitely start as a 9 or whether Alonso will definitely play, will he definitely get an attack return? If you're already worried about that, then adding captaincy on top just adds another layer of stress almost. If you're absolutely confident they're going to get returns, then you could go for it. West Brom's a great fixture. Surely it's a guaranteed clean sheet. But even though I think Chilwell played enough minutes over the international break to think that he will probably play in the Champions League and Alonso will play against West Brom, to captain him just another step above. So I like the fixture. I just don't necessarily love the players. I think Arsenal versus Liverpool, I own Salah and I am backing him for the end of the season, but I am a bit worried about his numbers. They have dropped this season compared to previous years, so it's really just a fixtures thing at this point. And I don't think Arsenal is necessarily a pushover. I know they conceded 3 to West Ham, and Liverpool could definitely do something similar, and they probably could let in 3 as well, potentially. But I just don't fancy that as a captainable fixture. I'm sure there's people with Aubameyang that are actually liking the way Liverpool have been defending recently because he could get at them. But from a captaincy point of view, I'd probably just avoid it. And elsewhere, there's not a huge amount. Like Watkins, for example, if I had him, I'd probably keep him for the Fulham game, but I'd want Grealish to be back. But Fulham haven't conceded a huge amount of goals. And I just think there's no guarantee that Jack Grealish definitely starts, so I'd probably avoid that as captaincy. Everton versus Crystal Palace is probably one that could be looked at. I think Calvert-Lewin's numbers are probably on par, if not slightly below Bamford's this year. He's not on penalties either, which isn't fantastic. But Crystal Palace is a great fixture. So Calvert-Lewin is, to be honest, out of all the players on here, if you want to think of definitely going to start, good numbers, good fixture, Calvert-Lewin's probably the best pick out of all the players we haven't looked at in the main section. And then it's probably Chelsea players and then Salah, something like that. So yeah, lots of other matches, lots of other captains. Let me know if you're going for something different other than the 4 that I've spoken about. So that is it for this one. Hopefully it was helpful. As always, if it was, please do give it a like and hit subscribe if you're new around here. I will be back tomorrow with the deadline stream around 10 o'clock, 10:15, something like that in the morning, taking you through all the way to the Game Week 30 deadline. Then we've only got 8 weeks left. It's the business there. People want me to stop talking about the fact it's coming to the end of the season because they're sad that the football's going away. But we've got the Euros, and then we'll be straight back for FPL. So it's all going to be good. Plus, there's loads more weeks to come. We've still got like nearly a quarter of the season to play. So we're not really that close to the end anyway. I'm waffling. If you want to sign up to Patreon, support me a little bit further, link in the description below. Everybody that signs up, as always, goes up on the Patreon wall. There will be a Q&A, a Patreon Q&A put up later this afternoon, so make sure to check that out if you haven't already. And a big shout out to Matthew S, who has signed up since the last video. I'll leave it there. Hopefully this helps make your captaincy decision a bit easier. Comment below who you are captaining this week, and I will see you tomorrow for the deadline stream.